Hey everybody, it's Retro JoJo back again. Today I want to talk about my top 10 animes that I enjoy. And I'm not in my usual look or garb or whatever you want to call it, because I thought it would be a good idea to wear a kind of a kimono that I found at a local store for the video. Anyway, starting with number 10 is One Piece. I enjoyed One Piece, I watched it a lot. Um, Growing up with one of my dear friends, and we watched it on Toonami almost every weekend. I would say I love the pirate aesthetic of it. I love that he eats the fruit and he becomes it gives him like powers. And then there's different fruits that have different powers that they eat, and they have different abilities. The animation style is really good in the show, and then of course you have my favorite character out of Monkey D. Luffy's whole crew, which is Zoro. I love Zoro. I even had the swords as the toy swords, of course, as a child, and it actually came with a mouthpiece on one of them that you could actually put in your mouth, which I thought was weird, different times. So, but that being said, I enjoyed the show. There were a lot of good, memorable villains. One of the villains that I remember the most was I cannot remember the guy's name right off. However, he had swords for almost like a Freddy Krueger style thing. He had swords for each finger, and then he had the ability to speed up, how fast he moved, and he would just attack people relentlessly, other pirates and things like that. And I just enjoyed the show, thought it was great growing up. Like I said, that's when I watched the most of it. I need to go back and watch the whole thing. There's just so many episodes of that show now because I believe it's still ongoing. It's not stopped since it's come out. So I'm going to go back and watch that, and I recommend that you do as well. Now I want to talk about number 9, which is Zatch Bell. Another one that I watched as a child, and didn't really watch it with a lot of friends and things like that, but I did watch it nonetheless. I like Zatch Bell. He's kind of like, he almost looks like a doll, and it's been a long time since I've watched this show. For the time that it come out, the animation was really good. It was animation normally typically in shows it gets better as it progressed, but sadly it was they discontinued making any more of the show. I think it was only one or two seasons. It didn't make it very far, but I enjoyed it. Zatch Bell helps his I don't like to say owner, but his it's kind of like a Pokemon thing where he has possession of Zatch Bell, and there are other bad guys and other good guys that have different characters, and he uses a spell book and makes him attack him. Now I'm not one for I'm not into uh, like witchcraft, practicing any of that or anything like that, but I just thought it was interesting that because you have stuff like also like Harry Potter and things like that. Just because you like it doesn't necessarily mean that you're you know a witch or whatever yourself. So, or I have to practice those things. I just like it because it's good. Again, it's another good versus evil thing. I think it's interesting, and a lot of the spells, the effects were really cool in the show. So overall, I just enjoyed the show growing up. Thought it was interesting, and it intrigued me as little 9-year old me. So now I want to talk about number 8. And if you've watched any of the other videos on this channel, then you already know that I love Devil May Cry. It has the same premise as I've talked about before, and I don't like to be redundant and repeat myself, but Devil May Cry is one of my favorite video game franchises. Well, they made an anime about it, and I watched the entire anime, and I just fell in love with the anime that they made. I think there's only 1 or 2 seasons of that show. The episodes aren't all that long. I think the longest one was maybe 25, 30 minutes. But overall, it's really solid. You have characters that you know have seen in the games, and you have my favorite character, which is kind of a cop out, but Dante, and it just it's gritty. It has the same feel as the games. It has some of the like demons that you might see, and it has a really good sword fights and weapon fights, and just overall just a good show. It is a little gory, not too much, but it's up there with other animes of that same style, where it's has a Kill Bill-esque feel to it. So really enjoyed it. Like I said, there's other characters like Lady and I think it's Valentine or Valentina. Can't remember if I'm getting her name right. Let me know if I've got it wrong in the comments. But overall, just great anime. So now I want to move on to number 7, which is Inuyasha. I watched Inuyasha even though my mom was a little leery of it, growing up. He has the kind of the beads around his neck, and then he has like a animal's tooth, and they fight the forces of evil. They fight other like bad demons. There's a lot of that theme in anime if you watch it. I mean, I love everything about Inuyasha. He's a half-breed or half-blood or whatever you would call it. There's other characters that are the same way that tag along, and I didn't get to watch a lot of it growing up, but I did read some of the manga when I was younger, and I just enjoyed it. I had friends that liked it. It was a big thing, and I just enjoyed Inuyasha and just enjoyed him as a character overall. He's, it's really, really cool guy who, is kind of, and think everybody else thinks he, nobody can beat him kind of basis, but then in other episodes you see that he really is a down to earth, loving kind of character, which I thought was, he's nice to others, he's kind to others. So good animation, check it out. Now number 6, something that everybody is talking about. There's new season that had come out, and that's Demon Slayer. And I'm actually wearing the kimono from, it's actually a female character. It's kimono. I don't care. I liked it. I picked it up. It was cheap. So I like her as a character. I can't remember exactly her name, but I know who my favorite character in Demon Slayer is. That's Tanjiro. And just you have the fire breathing, the water breathing, and they perform this kind of, I wouldn't say a dance, but they do different kinds of breathing based on, the fights that they're in, and different, whatever position they're in. And Tanjiro can actually use different ones. A lot of them stick to one, but he actually can perform multiple. So I thought it was, very interesting. You have Kibutsuji. Everybody, you either like him or you don't, but he's one of the most brutal anime characters. I mean, when I seen him destroy the demons that were below him, and he's like the lead ringleader, and he just destroyed them with like snap your fingers, so to speak. I mean, they were just bleeding everywhere. They were, he just devoured them. So I love the anime. There's so many good characters, and if you watch Mugen Train, it's sad at the end, and it just and he's the whole thing. He's trying to get back at Kibutsuji, but he also wants to turn Nezuko back into a human. But Nezuko, restrains herself. She doesn't attack other humans like other demons do. So I thought that was interesting. Very good anime, and it has some very memorable moments that I thoroughly enjoyed. Like when he beheads this giant demon in one episode, and then he says, "God help him find peace." I just thought that was really symbolic of trying to help someone else, and then they didn't want it at first, but then at the end he found peace. So I thought that was really interesting. Now I want to move on to number 5, which is Afro Samurai. I talked about the video game, and I believe it was my first or second part of my video game games that intrigue me, and the anime intrigues me as well. I think it's really good. I think they put them into 2 movies, but then it's a weird thing. It was either seasons or on some platforms and the movies. But if you've never seen Afro Samurai or Afro Samurai Resurrection, I recommend watching them. I will say that for, younger viewers, it is a little adult. It has language, it has graphic violence, and it's Samuel Jackson. If you know Samuel Jackson, if you've seen him in anything other than Star Wars, he uses language. Nonetheless, the story of the anime, it has a Kill Bill feel to it, and I keep using Kill Bill as a reference because I also love that movie. But anyway, the revenge story, you know, the number one, the guy that had the number one headband kills Afro's father, or had the number two, excuse me. I back up a little bit. Let me back up a little bit. He had the number two. He wanted the number one, so he killed Afro's father. And then he leaves the number two with Afro Samurai, and he takes the number one from Afro Father's severed head. So it's a very good anime. He goes on a rampage trying to get to this guy, and they have, Afro uses a sword, this guy uses guns, almost in a sword-like manner. Just very good art style. It's fantastic. I recommend watching it. If you have not seen it, like I said, younger viewers, just, you can watch it, but just know it's graphic, it's gory, it's non-stop action. I love it. So moving on to number 4 is Bleach. I watched Bleach growing up on Toonami. A lot of these shows came on Toonami, and that's how I found out about them. But nonetheless, what was it? Ichigo Kurosaki. Me and my friend used to make like paper masks. Like out of paper, we would make it thick, and then he would make masks. I wasn't that good at it, but I learned from my friend doing it in school, and we just thought we were really cool. We had there's a Bankai. When he goes into his Bankai mode, they change, and it looks like bone on half of his face, and it was just really cool back in the day. I enjoyed it. That they had the colored hair back then, and they had other bad guys, and there was a lot about it. I don't remember a whole lot, I will be honest, because it's been a long time since I've watched it. But what I did watch, I know that I enjoyed it. So, and next, I want to talk about something that actually a friend got me into at number 3, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! I actually have a Red Eyes B Dragon tattoo. My friend got me into it when I worked at this place where we used to work, and he got me collecting the cards, and we used to actually play, not on a phone or anything, but actually we would get our card decks and stuff, and he was teaching me how to make your own deck and things like that. So it got me curious about the show or anime or whatever you would call it. And I consider it an anime. It's very well animated. You follow Yugi, and he's, trying to complete the Millennium Puzzle, and it just, get all the pieces of the Millennium Puzzle and put them together. And I will admit this, I have not fully finished it. Every time that I started it, I got so close to the end of it. But I bought all the movies and things like that. And Joey Wheeler is actually probably my favorite character, not just because he has the Red Eyes B Dragon, but also because his personality kind of matches that of mine, how I would be in those situations. The card game kind of comes to life, and you can actually see in the anime the characters' cards, they come to life. So the monsters, things like that. But I would say that like the Red Eyes B Dragon, Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Dark Magician. Those would be my favorites. And then of course everybody likes there's a tier called the God tier cards, and they ban a lot of them at the where you can trade cards, or where they have matches and tournaments and things like that. They banned a lot of those because you can't have cards that'll overpower everybody else and then you just automatically win. So like a Zodia and Slifer the Sky Dragon, yeah, you're not going to use those in a tournament. So overall, Love the show. The characters are memorable. You have a lot of other characters that are memorable, and just overall, very, very good, solid show. So now, at number two is Dragon Ball Z, DBZ, the original. I like all the new shows, Super and things like that. Dragon Ball Z Kai, things like that. GT, GT is okay. But just overall, just the original. I remember watching with my one of my dear friends. I remember watching Cooler's Revenge for the first time, and now I own all those movies, the original movies. Lord Slug, uh, the one where Cooler returns. I believe it's Return of Cooler or something like that. And he comes back as Meta Cooler, and then there's this whole army, and it's just Vegeta and Goku versus all of them. Just very raw. They feel powerful when you're watching them on screen. You feel like you're there, and you're like, whoa, this is intense, and it's nonstop action. But then there's scenes of happiness and joy, and with Goku and Gohan and Piccolo and Chi Chi and Bulma, and then there's the bad guy characters that I enjoy. Oh, and you can't forget about Master Roshi. Master Roshi is he's funny. He's a little bit of a pervert, but he's still funny. He's got that innocence. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just lonely kind of vibe about him. But as far as the bad guys, I would say my favorite is Cooler. I like Frieza, but not near as much as I do Cooler. Cooler just has that, shut up and fight me kind of vibe about him. Whereas Frieza's going to stand there and talk and mock you and, make a big scene about it because he's a big baby. He's got to make a scene before he fights because he's more powerful than you. And Cooler doesn't do that. Even though Cooler got his butt handed to him, he still put a beating on Goku, though, the first fight in Cooler's Revenge, where Frieza died and he wanted revenge for his brother's death. So that's one of my favorite Dragon Ball Z movies of all time. So and it's very well animated. The characters are, just, like I said, just the whole world surrounding Dragon Ball Z and the community. There's a huge community of people that enjoy that anime and show, whichever you want to call it. And they go to conventions and dress up like, cosplay as them and things like that. So there's a lot of love behind Dragon Ball Z. And there's been plenty of good games about Dragon Ball Z as well. So maybe I'll do a review of those in the future. Let me know if you enjoy that. So number one is Naruto. And if you can't tell, I like Naruto a lot. I grew up watching Naruto. I still watch Naruto. I haven't finished. Haven't started Boruto yet, even though it looks like it might be pretty good. But I watch Naruto. It's like I start Naruto, the first show that come out, anime, and then I start Shippuden. It's like I've seen some of this one, some of that one, some of this one, some of that one, and I never fully finished all of it. But I've gotten darn close to finishing at least Naruto. In Naruto, the first one, I would say my favorite character would have to be Kakashi Hatake. And in Shippuden, both of them. He was great in Naruto, but he was even more memorable in my opinion in Shippuden. He's just a beast of a character, and he has a lot of heart too. You think Kakashi just because he, the copycat ninja with the one Sharingan eye. And there's a big story that comes out later in the show about how he got the eye. I'm not going to spoil it in case nobody's ever seen it. I don't like doing that. I wouldn't want nobody to do that to me if I'd never watched something before. So just overall, great anime. It has some of my favorite characters of all time. Yeah, Zabuza and Haku, and the stories that Mashima Kishimoto created, though, are just some of my favorite anime stories of all time, because he created these characters that you see Naruto and he's a class clown. He's got the nine-tailed fox within him. he doesn't understand why nobody likes me. Why does everybody, all the adults and stuff shun me? And then his parents, he doesn't have parents. So he's all alone. He's only got Iruka Sensei. And then you find out Iruka went through the same thing. Even Kakashi had hardships. Even though he was at the top tier, he had hardships that he had to overcome. So I think that's a really good point to end it on, is all the characters that he created in that world have something they have to overcome, strengths and weaknesses. Just like we're human beings, we have strengths and weaknesses. And I very much enjoyed Naruto. I watched it from the time I was probably 9, and I'm 27. So, I've been watching it for a long time, been playing the games for a long time. There's a lot of good games. Might review those individually as well in future videos. So now I just want to talk about some honorable mentions. That being, I just call it Bobobo. I watched Bobobo on Toonami growing up. Again, another growing up thing. Watched it. Haven't watched it in a long time. May go back and watch it again. It's very weird, to say the least. I mean, there's a bullet lady with legs. Bobobo uses his hair and his armpit hair, if I remember right, as weapons when he fights bad guys. It has moments of you're just like, what in the world is going on in this anime? But it's very fun. There's a guy he's a little son on legs with shoes on. It's fun. If you never watched it, I recommend that you watch it because it's funny and it's fun. And especially, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're 9 and you think it's hilarious, it's the most funniest thing you've ever seen. You're like, what in the world am I watching? So, and it would probably still be funny to me today because I just have that kind of sense of humor. I think stuff like that's funny. So, also want to mention Space Dandy. I watched Space Dandy when it came out. And if you know anything about me, by watching this channel, or if you know me personally and you're watching this channel, or if you just know me personally, then I like Star Wars a lot. No, I love that. That's actually too low. I love Star Wars. I collect things. I've actually been to a convention. I met Jeremy Bullock in person. Great person. Rest in peace. But Space Dandy has that same feel as an anime that, he's a space, kind of a space, what would you call it? Not a smuggler really, but kind of he's an outlaw kind of thing. He's there's another word, slipped my mind right now, but he's kind of like Han Solo, and then he's got a cat, which I thought was interesting as a co-pilot. It does have some, not really bad adult moments in it, but it has some adult humor in it, I would say. Very well put together anime. I enjoyed it so much because it was almost like watching a parody to me. It's not exactly the same because, of course, they didn't copy it, on paper. Okay, we got to copy George Lucas. No, they didn't do that. But they did take notes, I believe. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it's just a coincidence. And now it's a really cool coincidence. That's why it's an honorable mention. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend check it out. And the last one I want to mention is actually a manga. I haven't watched it because I don't believe there's an anime about it, and that's Goku Rakugai. Goku Rakugai is very interesting. I had a friend of mine that I work with tell me about the Shonen Jump app for your phone where you can read, and it's only I think it's like $2.99 a month. This is not a paid promotion. Just thought it was interesting to mention. That's where I found it at, and very interesting manga. I'm actually on, I think, volume 2 or 3, and I've read the first one. Really good. And when I have just downtime, especially if I go to a break or something like that, or in the break room, I'll sit there and read sometimes, or even in my car I'll sit there and read. Even if sometimes when I'm off work I read it. So it just depends. But very interesting. They have their investigation type business, and they hunt down, I think they're called, what were they called? They're kind of like demons of that world, and a Momo or something like that, I believe is what they're called, something like that. And they hunt down humans, but then they start finding out other things where there's other characters that may have marks on their necks, or they're only male, or they're only female. They're trying to figure out why is it they're not, torn limb for limb, because those demons feed off of humans. That's how they survive. And the characters in Goku Raikuga, the good guys, are trying to stop said demons from destroying destroying the people of their city. So I thought that was really interesting, and I enjoy anime. I enjoy all kinds of different media. So in the comments, let me know what you guys would like to see next. And until next time, this is Retro JoJo. Peace.